So we're starting off looking at your short fight with Bloodhound. I'm not going to let the clip play, it's yours, you already know what it is, you can view it on YouTube if you want to go through it at normal time. I'm letting this play through at half speed so I can talk through it a little bit normally. You tell your teammate that you want to use the charge tower because you're aware there's a team in this general vicinity. By the looks of it, you've just been off drop because the map or the ring information isn't available to you, and there's basically 30 squads left in the game of duos, so that's basically everyone. So off drop, that's fine. You know the information that they're in this general vicinity, whether you saw their dive trails or not. You want to use the charge tower first. Perfectly fine. Using your abilities inside gunfights can be crucial from winning and losing, because your opponents more than likely will not have their ultimates. They'll have their tacticals, but they definitely won't have their ultimates unless they have a character like Mirage that gets every 60 seconds. So your teammate gets in charge tower 2, that's perfect. You wrap around to the left here once you use the charge tower, which is even better because the enemy team knows where you are. They know the charge tower's here, so they're going to be staring at you either through the window or through the door or the back door, and then they climb up on top of the roof. The point is they know that you're here. So you get the ultimate off, you run back round to cover, that's fine. They know where you are, you don't know where they are specifically. You pop your scan, and lo and behold, I'm not sure if you catch this, but the door's actually open there. So they were looking at you through that door, and then they backed away once they seen the scan go off. So the fact you backed around this way was really, really good, because they would have had shots on you if you would have just went straight forward and off the edge. You pop your scan, and then you pop your ult. Perfectly done. Always pop your scan before you pop your ult, because you get a free scan. If you didn't know this, Bloodhound scan lasts... Sorry, the cooldown for Bloodhound scans, like I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it's on like 25 to 30 seconds or something like that. It's a long time, and usually most gunfights last under 30 seconds, which means without your ultimate you'll only get one scan per gunfight, usually. Because you pop your ultimate, you know you get a scan every 7 seconds. You must utilize this. As soon as this scan is available, you need to use it, because your first scan is all your teammate has to know where they are in this building. There is an opportunity here, and I'm going to let it play through. But there is an opportunity for you to scan again, and that would have been really useful for your teammate before he pushed in through the door. So as you come up here, you spot them inside because you're Bloodhound, everything's highlighted red. I'm assuming you're doing like a dummy here to make them think that you're going to the backside door down here. Perfect. It fooled them because they moved away from that door. As you drop back down, they moved to this side. Because your teammate threw a grenade through the window over here, that then forces that team inside to push out in this direction. And that means they have to be within this square here. The only other option they could do is go out the door that you would have fooled them to wrap to, or through the little doorway in here. So what you do here is perfectly fine. But as you noticed, I'm not sure if you did, when you climbed up there, if you look at your tactical ability, right there. Whenever you're on the roof, even if you were going to come back down, as you're on the roof, just look down and scan. So as you climb up, look down from there and just scan. That lets your teammate know exactly where they are inside the building, and you can push off that information. So we'll just back up a little bit more here. One thing, okay, I'll just let it play through a wee bit, I'll come back to it at the end. So you pop the fake, that's fine. What you could also do here, instead of both you and your teammate pushing through the one door, you could have continued going to this door, drop down, and then go through from the other side, whilst your teammate is coming up behind you, and he could go through the door that you jumped onto after you scanned, because he now knows where they're at. He can go in immediately and take some pop shots, all the while that enemy team inside is going to be focusing him because he's the one doing the initial damage. You could then continue on, drop down, go through the door and start shooting them, in the back and get basically a sandwich. By doing that, you would have taken less damage overall, and your teammate, chances are they may or may not have got downed. They got downed anyway in this clip. That's not an issue. But I'm trying to give you other situations that would benefit you more. At the end of the day, you won the gunfight. That's all that matters. So you drop back down, you decide to play the fake, that's fine. You still could have popped your scan before you entered the door. You decide to push in. They're both focusing you right now. So if you would have went up onto the roof and continued and dropped down to here, your teammate would be in your position right now. He could get the pop shots. He could push back out to the door and close it again. You could then push in and shoot them in the back. Then go back outside the door again, close it, and your teammate could push back in and just keep going back and forth, doing this sandwich, taking bits of health off bit by bit. One of you, he could have came in here and got so much damage done that he was one bullet. As soon as you went in, you got the down. That's a 2v1. You just both push at that point. So you go in, take your shots. You connect with 2. That's perfect, because now the fuse is done for 90 damage out of 100 shield health, so he should only be 10 shield and then 100 base health. As you come in here, you use the box to your left hand side, which is just in frame now. You move left and then you move back right as you go out of the door once you get shot with the devotion. I'll explain fighting with devotions at the end, because there is a specific way you have to fight against them. But you did really well here moving left. This caused the devotion to miss basically all of its bullets, and you only got absolutely lasered there as you're running out, because that's when you started getting hit with the devotion. So you play the door, perfect. What I will say is you reload it, you wait out just 1.5 to 2 seconds, then you reload at the wingman. You have 3 bullets left in the wingman. You also still have an RE45 as your secondary. I would suggest once that door was closed, or even mid-closing, pop a cell. That means you would have had that extra 25 health whenever you decided to push back in, just in case you would have missed your shots on the fuse and he would have shot you. You would have been that extra 25 health instead of the looks about maybe 40 health there, because you're just below halfway. So instead of reloading, pop a cell. Your teammate gets some shots, cracks the Bangalore, you get the knock. The fuse was already, what would that be, 110 health. So you crack him there, and then you get a headshot which downs him completely. Good shots in your half, or in your part, no issues there. Get the res, that's spot on. You can use the smoke that the Bangalore had used to your advantage there. Once you get the res, you go over to the death box and you shield swap. No issues there, that's exactly what you're meant to do. But one thing I will say is you shield swapped and then you swap back again. Once you swap back again, you're back to square one, and the looting that you've just done was a waste of time. And that time could have given another enemy team to push in front of you, push in from behind. It means it'll take longer for you to heal fully if there was to be a third party, because your teammate had already got a purple shield swap, so he was ready to fight again straight afterwards. Rather, you now, because you shield swapped twice back to your old shield, you're back to square one, and those 3 seconds that it took you to do that could have cost you between life and death in a first person shooter. So what I would suggest is keep the white Evo shield, go to a corner and get your health bar up to its full. That means you are actually at full health, because you would have had white shields and then full health. If after 1 or 2 seconds that you do, you still have your ultimate here, pop some scans, pop a scan this way, pop a scan that way, or even pop a scan this way, pop a syringe. As soon as the syringe is done, pop a scan in the opposite direction. That gives you full 360 confirmation that no one's pushing you. Then go back and fill up, or fill up your blue Evo shield back to its full. So I've just written down a couple of notes here when I went through this to make it a bit easier, so I remember exactly each point when we're going through it. So good use of the charge tower, good use of the scan, you used it before your ultimate. Should always scan whenever it's available. After 7 seconds of popping your ult, after your first scan, pop it again whenever you're on the roof to give your teammate as much information as possible. Could have used the sandwich in the other door. You continue on to the door on the far side, the Mirage comes up behind. Good jiggle shooting against the box for cover, especially with an enemy that has a devotion or a devo. As soon as the door was closed, pop a cell. There's no need to reload, you had a secondary and you still had 3 bullets in the wingman. Got some good shots in the Bangalore and fuse. Good shield swap, just keep the white. Just another thing as well, you probably did this already, but as you shield swapped there, you have an RE45, you could have swapped either of these 2 weapons and you would have had a stronger weapon than an RE. Probably go for the car over the alternator, especially in close quarters. But I'm sure you went back after the gunfight was over and looted for a better weapon. So just at some additional notes, this is more so to do with your teammate now, rather than yourself, because you won the gunfight at the end of the day, that's the main thing. FOV was one thing I noticed when I first played this. Your FOV seems quite low. If you're comfortable using this FOV, that's fine, I'm not going to tell you to turn it up. But in close quarter fighting, having that extra peripheral vision whenever you're fighting an enemy can be very, very helpful, especially if they're jiggling and moving about and even slide past you. You can see them more if you have a higher FOV. If you're not comfortable with using it, then don't use it. So once you start pushing in, your teammate throws a grenade into the window here, which is perfect. That forces them out of here. No issues with that. He did have a thermite, and I would suggest throwing it in the window as well. Reason being, as he throws the thermite here at the top of the screen, right here, he throws it to this door. If this door would have broken, you saw when you came up these stairs that you had an enemy standing right here. If that door would have broken, and my guess is he was expecting it to, and you're standing here, as you run up the stairs, the enemy has complete line of sight of you head first as you come up, and he can just shoot you through the door. And if he has a devotion with a turbocharger especially, you're dead in half a second, easy. So I would hold back on, again, heat at the moment, I'm sure is the reason for him doing it was fine, because that stops them from blocking the door and sitting behind it. You know, that's fine if that was his thought process, no issues there. But just, he could have threw that through the window and that would have forced them even more to push further out, because they couldn't go anywhere near this little extra door on the right hand side. And you can see here, whenever you come up the stairs, he's literally staring right at you. And that, like I said, I suspect that he expected this door to break and he can just shoot you line of sight. You've also holstered your weapons. Totally fine, by the way. Or, no, actually, you still have the wingman out here. Sorry, I thought you had holstered them. So yeah, that was one thing. The other thing is, your teammate also had his ultimate. He used his tactical, the decoy, before he went in, that's fine. I also noticed the decoy was not well placed, shall we say, because the decoy was standing right here. That wasn't going to fool anyone. If he would have pointed it at the door, the decoy would then run up and inside the building. It could have fooled them. But he also could have used his ultimate. Because if you notice, whenever you come back out, so it's here, you go in, take your shots, no issues. Your teammate is currently running up the stairs in the minimap, right there. When he went through that door, if he would have popped his ultimate, you'll notice that he actually gets downed by the fuse. He didn't get downed by the Bangalore. If he would have popped his ultimate when he went through that door, chances are that the fuse would start shooting all of the decoys, trying to figure out, he could be shooting this guy, shooting this guy, shooting this guy, and then eventually shoot here, and then realize, oh, this is the real Mirage, I need to shoot him. But those few split seconds would have been enough for your teammate, as he was running, as he was shooting the Bangalore is moving round to the left, and then it comes back round past the box as you come in. those extra few seconds of the fuse trying to figure out who's who, your teammate could have wrapped around and crouched behind the box, or even stood behind it because it's at a decent height. Stood behind it, or even popped a cell as you come into the door. Now the fuse began to push him to the left, but that was only because he knew straight away where he was at. If he would have popped his ultimate, those few seconds, the gunfight could have been very different, and your teammate could have got the down on the Bangalore instead of getting downed by the fuse. So that's just another thing to note. Again, it's not your issue, but it's just something to point out. It's just something else to point out. So when fighting against a Devo, whether a Devotion has a turbocharger or not, if you are in clear line of sight of a Devotion, if they can hit shots or use aim assist to their advantage in a gunfight, chances are you're not going to win that, full stop, even if you had a Kraber in your hand back before the Kraber got nerfed. Chances are, in this situation, it's the Bangalore that has the Devo. If you stood right there and you didn't move, you were dead. Within seconds, even without the fuse, you were dead. The way to work with a Devo is, if you can get to cover, get to it. And if you don't have cover, you're in the open, chances are, believe it or not, if you holster your weapon, and if you can get a slide off, because you have your ultimate, you can slide a lot easier, because you have the speed boost, same slightly slower speed boost than Octane. Just slide, tap strafe left, keep moving left or right, jump up and down, whatever you do. The hipfire spread of a Devotion is really bad. So if you keep medium distance, not right in front of their face. So if like you were anywhere here, chances are they would have hipfired you and just killed you. But if you stay where you're at and move left and right, again, this is if the fuse isn't here, you may have outlasted the Devo, because chances are they're ADSing, so they can't move. And the Devotion is an LMG, so it takes a lot longer to reload, so you could get your pop shots off. As well as that, if he hadn't got a turbocharger and you stayed behind this box, he would have continued shooting, and if he had stopped and you could have just did a quick jiggle shot and popped back in again, he would have tried to charge it up every time you jiggle peek, and he wouldn't have got a shot on you because it took so long to charge up. So yeah, the hipfire spread of a Devo at medium range is really bad. It's also quite hard to control accuracy with the Devo in close range combat. If you've ever picked up a Devotion, you would know yourself, if you ADS'd and shot with it and you had a target that just kept moving left and right, chances of you killing them is basically none. So yeah, that's just reading through some of the notes again. Yep. Other than that, that was pretty well done. You won the gunfight at the end of the day, which is the main thing, but those are just a couple of things to note. So I'll get on to the next clip.